Welcome to Natural News University, where the experts speak out. So why don't we talk about sun gazing first?
Yeah. All right. Well, sun gazing, I think what's valuable to understand is that right now it's not very easy for me to look up at the sun. In fact, I have an inborn desire to shut my eyes and avoid looking into it. I can tell it will burn me.
Sure.
So that means that all the light that we're seeing right now, and there's a tremendous amount of light here, it's all reflected light. I'm not looking into a light source. You right now are reflecting a lot of light at me, but you're not a light source. You're just a mirror for light.
Well, don't we give off any light at all?
We give off very little. We do give off visible light, you're right, but not very much. So our eyes don't really pick it up. So for our intents and purposes, this is all reflected light. Now, up until very recently in history, the only light sources that human beings would have had, and this is for most of our evolution, we had the sun as a direct light source, fire, lightning, and the aurora borealis, and I guess the other stars. Other than that, there were no light sources. Today, we've got artificial light bulbs, we've got computer monitors, we've got screens that we stare directly into. Now, this is interesting to me because when we look into a light source, like when you look into the sun, what happens is that light energy, as photonic energy, rides the optic nerve to the hypothalamus and then to the pineal gland. Now, your pineal gland, which is the heart of your brain, it's a very small, pea-sized organ right in the center of your brain, it has photoreceptors. You know, the ancients called it the third eye, and they were right. It's the third eye. It has photoreceptors. Why would an organ in the center of your head have photoreceptive cells, light receivers? It is the third eye. When we look directly into light sources, we feed the pineal gland. Now, my personal feeling on this is that when we look into stars, or we look into the sun, which is a star, when we look into starlight, we feed good information into the pineal gland. Our brain is basically a computer.
Makes us feel great.
And it makes us feel great. It causes the release, or it causes the regulation of serotonin and melatonin and maybe even dimethyltryptamine. That's very healthy for us. When we look into artificial light, we're getting a strange kind of information, but we still are feeding it directly into the pineal. Remember, we talked about it.
And we're still attracted to it.
We stood around fires our whole history. Eventually, we replaced the fire with a new form of electromagnetism, the radio. And the family would hang out around the radio. Then they replaced the radio with the television. Now the television took the place of the fireplace in the house. So everyone structured the living room around the fireplace. Now everyone has their own fireplace. It's a computer screen, and even more so, we have our own
iPads.
So we are so attracted to light because of how important it was to us all through our history and antiquity. So we're still attracted to that. I feel the best light source you can feed in would be the setting or rising sun when the UV level is low, because you have about an hour from the sun above the horizon that you can look directly into it, and an hour as it comes above the horizon. So you can stare directly into that light source, and it makes you feel good. That's why people love to watch a sunrise or a sunset.
Is there any kind of time that you think would be a really good amount of time to trigger off that response? You think about 15, 20 minutes? I mean, is there something?
I think that even 30 seconds.
Really?
I really do feel that golden color light. It's a frequency of light. It's a color spectrum, which is a frequency.
Just taking that in.
When you take that in, you literally, it's not like you're looking at reflected light. There is starlight. There's a direct transmission from the sun directly down the whole of your pupil, along your optic nerve, and eventually right to your pineal gland. In other words, you're taking light into the pineal gland directly from a star. When you look at the stars in the night sky, same thing. We draw them in. Now remember, all human beings saw the stars every night that wasn't raining all through our history. Now it's clouded over, and the only stars people see are in Hollywood. Our whole history was about sunlight and starlight and the worship of these things, and they fed us and nourished us. The part of our nutrition that relies on plasma. You asked about the moon. The moon's a mirror for sunlight. So the moon's not a light source, but a reflector of light, and it regulates our nocturnal cycles. It regulates the night, and it regulates the menstrual cycle of women. So it's also very important for us to see that light. And when we live in such a way that we never see the luminous bodies, which is the sun and the moon, or the stars, I think our health really suffers, and I think we suffer psychologically.
What's going on here? Should we be afraid out here?
Yeah, afraid. I know right now, right? We should probably be concerned. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that about 70 cancers are implicated for vitamin D deficiency. We make vitamin D in the presence of the sun, but the way that I would break that down is like this. The ancients told us about 4 things. They called them the elements: earth, air, fire, water. Fire is really, what it is the beginnings of an energy called plasma, or an energy state, or a state of matter called plasma. The sun is made of plasma. All stars are made of plasma, and we have a nutritional need for all the elements. Earth, that's our food. Water, that's the water we drink. Air, like that we breathe. And fire, plasma, we have a nutritional need for all the elements. We need to be out in the plasma. We call that the light of the sun, but really what's going on is we're out in the plasma. You know that the Earth isn't outside of the sun, the Earth's actually inside the sun.
Sure.
And there's something called the heliosphere. The atmosphere of the sun extends far past our solar system. Our planet's in the sun. All the organisms on Earth require the sunlight to grow and thrive just like us. Now, can this overexposure to sun be dangerous? To very hybridized humans? Yes.
Yeah.
To human beings who have acclimated to very northern latitudes and have no pigment in their skin? Of course. The real issue with the sun is not whether or not it causes cancer. The real issue with sun is, are you getting enough?
Right.
Where I live in the northern latitudes, about 42 degrees latitude, if someone moves here, say from Somalia, and they have very, very darkly pigmented skin, and they move here, it's unlikely they're going to get enough sun, even on days like this,
Yeah.
to penetrate that dark melanin pigment to get them the sun that they need to develop enough vitamin D.
So they'll become deficient.
They'll become deficient, and deficiency of vitamin D in adults, now in kids we know rickets, that's the bowing of the legs, but in adults it's called osteomalacia. And osteomalacia means bone pain. And so today we see this surge in things like fibromyalgia, which means that everything kind of hurts.
Yeah.
That's also a symptom of vitamin D deficiency. Very common for people who are more darkly pigmented who live in the north. Now, if somebody who's very lightly pigmented, maybe somebody of Scandinavian descent, goes and lives at the equator, well, then they don't have enough of a protective layer. So, of course, that could be damaging. This has to do with us moving all over the planet. Regardless of where you live, you should be outside as often as you can, taking it in. We're spending 90% of our time indoors. That's causing, of course, organisms who avoid the sunlight develop cancer. Isn't that kind of obvious? If you want to be a cave dweller, of course your body's going to get ill. Try growing a plant in the dark. Try growing an aquarium without the full spectrum light on top. The fish need that in order to thrive and grow. So do we. When we take that out of our lives, we become light deficient. And if you're light deficient because you're not getting enough sunlight, you'll find a replacement for that light. It's likely that you'll find yourself staring into a direct light source like television or iPhone or computer monitor because you require light.